Schefter!
Gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. You guys have nice breaks?
Nice. I got burned a little bit, as you can see. I got bit by a spider, too. I think I potentially got to hang out with the family. Yeah, we had a great break. How about you? How are you doing? Are you working at all or no?
Where'd you get bit by a spider?
Yeah, down in Ireland, too. So those spiders, I think, have a little bit more sauce. You know what I mean? They got a little bit more sauce. And I think I swallowed a few, too.
Sure.
Nice.
Good
protein.
Thing.
Yep.
Anyways, how are you? Been working or no?
Always working. Obviously not crazy. It's been quiet. It's been slow. It's been nice. But you're always working, of course, Pat.
Okay, so Schefty, you haven't been doing shit. Got it. All right, you've been shaking hands, kissing babies. Tell me this, Schefty. You've been in the NFL now how long?
35 years.
Woo. Congratulations.
Wow.
Hell of a thing.
That boy, Shefty.
Not for long is what the NFL stands for. Not for Schefter, though. NFS. You know what I mean? Schefter's going to be around a long time. The Houston Texans, I believe, report the training camp in 2 days. July 17th. Vets and rookies reporting at the same time. I like that D'Amico's doing that because they got a young team to begin with. We'll all report at the same time. Nobody gets any extra yada, yada, yada. Is this earlier than normal? This feels a lot earlier than it used to be. Is that kind of happening? And how has this transitioned into becoming an earlier reporting time than maybe what it used to be?
It's a great question. Again, I think we're starting the Hall of Fame game. It's August 1st in Canton. That's crazy. You had the Ravens rookies report to training camp Saturday. You got 8 more teams, rookies reporting tomorrow. And it does feel like it's moved up a little bit. Now, look, the bottom line is these drills don't start until late July for the most part by the time these teams get into camp. But you know what? The league has put this emphasis on that kickoff Saturday drill or that television special that they now do like Saturday, July 27th. I'm in Bristol all day. As we bounce around from training camp to training camp, they put it on ABC, they put it on ESPN. And so by that time, by Saturday, July 27th, everybody's in camp. There's a Hall of Fame game on Thursday, August 1st. And so the schedule is just getting moved up. Everything's moving quicker. And that's sort of how it's working right now. And again, you're right. The Texans become the first team this week on Wednesday to have the entire squad in training camp. Even on Saturday, like I'm looking down, like, wait. The Ravens rookies report to camp today, like they're in the building today. That just screams your summer's over. And here we go with football again.
Yeah, and sorry you're gonna have to work again, Chef. Jeez Louise, screams your summer's over. Did you hear how we started the show? We were so bummed. We're so excited to be back.
Yeah.
We were getting antsy whenever we were on break. Schefter's like, I saw the Ravens report. I'm like, damn.
Already?
You know what it's like? It's like the start of the school year. Like you're excited to get going. You want to be back with all your friends and see what's ahead, but you also know all the work that's involved. So
yeah, I agree.
There's that element that you understand.
Yeah, I completely understand. And also what we all forget, and we just got super excited about the Texans reporting, and we will give our Super Bowl predictions on the 17th as the Texans report because the season is officially started.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give our Super Bowl. Yep, on Wednesday. Super Bowl predictions on Wednesday.
That's right.
On this particular show. But, Schefty, what we all realize, I think, whenever we get excited about training camp and these preseason games, boy, preseason sucks.
It's off.
Now, it's great, obviously, for players and coaches and teams to find their people. But as fans, we're going to get so worked up for that Hall of Fame game. We're going to know nobody that's playing in those games. And then the first weekend of preseason games, we're going to know nothing. And then we're going to be so excited. That second round of games is the worst shit ever. It's UFL times 100 almost. And then we'll kind of be creeping back in the season. So let's hold our horses, but let's also get excited. Let's get incredibly excited. And the fact that football is back for us to chit-chat about is good news. But there was something mentioned by Joe Burrow. On Pardon My Take, who obviously we're massive fans of Big Cat and PFT. And I don't know if Joey created it or potentially had heard it for a few years, but he said 18-game season, if that's going to happen, which we all assume is going to take place immediately upon the 17th game being added. I think most people who had microphones at the time are like, this is definitely going to get to 18 games. And then add another bye week. Let's go 2 bye weeks, Joey B. pitch. Is that real conversation happening? Because obviously, if you're the NFL, you're a business. You're not scared to do a little testing of like releasing some information, see the reaction. Everybody loved the 18 games, 2 bye weeks, even a potential Pro Bowl week like they have for the NBA All-Star, which maybe heightens it a little bit better so that answers the Pro Bowl question where it still matters, but not really as much. And is there any real chatter about that behind the scenes that you know of? And how do you think that would look if it was to take place?
Well, you said everybody loves it. Everybody loves it except the actual players that have to play the 18 games. Everybody else wants 18 games. Ask the players how many players want to play in an 18-game schedule? Pat, let me ask you a question. When you were a player, you want to play 18 games?
Well, I was a punter.
Yeah, I understand.
Hey, and the extra bye week gives you 2 more paychecks, 2 more game checks. You know what I mean? Unless they divvy it up, which they probably would.
Here's the whole
game
thing.
checks get smaller. Oh, no.
Here's the whole thing. If we go back to when the conversation of more games, more than a 16-game season started, it felt like the NFL started out of the block with 18 games, and it felt like that was roundly dismissed. And so the league, I think, did a pretty smart thing. It went from 18 to 17, and rather than take one big giant step, they said, let's take little steps, and we'll get to where we're going over time, but it's not going to be as quickly as we'd like it to be. And now the fact that Joe Burrow is even talking about the 18 games, to me, it just seems like there is a momentum to this. There's a trackiness. I don't think it's real right now, but it's only a matter of time before it does get real and we get to that point. And again, when you get back to the 18 games, in my mind, it's going to be about money. It's always going to be about the money. You're going to have to dangle enough to the players to make it worth their while, as distasteful as it is to play 18 games. I even heard somebody float to me this summer. We were having a debate about the 18 games, and they're like, hey, how do you get the players involved in terms of the valuation of the franchise over time? Because the value of these franchises is skyrocketed so much that how do you give the players that? And I don't know how you do it. I'm not smart enough financially, but look at the prices that these teams are going for.
Oh, yeah.
And with all due respect, it is the players who help make it happen, right? So the players get paid while they play, and then they leave, and that's it, right? So how about somehow getting them in on this? Now, I don't know how you do that. I'm not an economist. I'm not smart enough financially to figure it out. But you want to get to 18 games? You want to maximize your revenues? You want to grow the sport around the world? How about giving us a small percentage of the franchise value over time?
So players get 49% of the TV ads and some other shit calculated in. I assume you could just do an overall franchise valuation addition, but that'd be tough because valuation isn't a real fluid number until somebody goes to sell it. So how do you, I mean, that would be an interesting thing, but that would be.
You're a much savvier businessman than I am. So you will have to figure out exactly how to do this and make this work for the players so that if they get to 18 games, that the players get compensated in an appropriate and according fashion.
Well, and then what's the valuation, right? Because the valuation is whatever somebody's willing to pay. If you get a couple of these bazillionaires, which there are aplenty nowadays, seemingly, that want one particular team, all of a sudden that franchise that was worth $4 billion or whatever is actually $6.5 billion. And I mean, it's like, it's a wild world. Roger Goodell's in a good spot, except for a Sunday ticket. Hey, except for a Sunday ticket. What do you think happens with that whole thing?
I think the NFL is going to keep appealing it. I think it's going to keep being drawn out. I think that there will be no quick, immediate resolution to it. That would surprise me. And I think that's how it'll transpire over time. It'll take a long time before the league is willing to write a check to go pay off the ruling that was issued last month in Los Angeles.
I can't believe Roger Goodell testified and they lost. That's got to be the first time he's ever spoken and lost.
Yeah.
That legitimately. Mm-hmm. We've seen him sitting everywhere, even in D.C., where they called him Goodell and called him the wrong name and things. He won that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen him at press conferences. He's won that conversation. You've seen him in negotiations, and you go back to the 18 games with an extra bye week. That's an extra, how many more 3, 4 primetime games, let alone if you do that? What going rate for the primetime games is, if you look at what Netflix paid for, 1 game, 2 games? Amazon paid for 2 games now with Black Friday. What Apple could potentially get into the game. Each primetime game has a value that will certainly lift the players' percentage to 49%. But I'm excited to see where it goes because it seems like there's no end in sight to the growth of the NFL. Speaking of, we got access to everything.
Oh, yeah.
NFL Films created this Hard Knocks offseason for the Giants. Everybody's loving it. D-Butt's got a question for you.
Yeah, Schefter, I'm definitely one of the people loving it. Just for not because the Giants necessarily, but the access that the GMs talking to each other, the scouts sitting around talking about players and how they value different positions. I know you're obviously tied into those group of people. Have there been any specific response from the new Hard Knocks with the Giants behind the scenes?
I think that I can't imagine that the Giants are thrilled to be airing all their private opinions publicly. Again, just one statement about Daniel Jones is now going to shadow him the entire year. Hey, either we find out we've got our quarterback for the next 10 years or we pivot off him. So you think as if playing New York Giants quarterback isn't a pressure-packed enough job already. Now you throw in some of these statements, which everybody kind of knows he's under the gun and he's got to step up and perform. But to hear the general manager actually say that on air, is another thing. And to hear those conversations, how fired up do you think Saquon Barkley is going to be when they play the first game against the Giants? The Giants felt like they didn't want to hand off to a $12 million running back when they had a $40 million quarterback, but the Eagles have a $50 million quarterback, and they're going to hand it off for a $12 million running back, right? So these things are going to be remembered, and it's one thing to have hard knocks when it's about the roster spot for the 6th wide receiver job, or, guys practicing during camp in the heat and some of the jokes and pranks that go on during. It's another thing when you're hearing the actual decision makers, the actual words of the decisions, and I promise you we're going to hear about that throughout the course of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these teams are not thrilled to do hard knocks in the summer. And frankly, I don't know how they got the Giants to do it in the offseason. Good for them and good for the Giants, and respect everybody. We love to hear it all, but I'm just telling you, we're going to hear a lot about those comments all summer into the season.
Well, remember, Mara said he was sick of answering questions to his billionaire friends about why his team sucks. And then he kept telling them, that guys are geniuses. You know, Shane, Dayball, I got geniuses here. And then the NFL films were like, hey, we were wondering if you want to do an offseason. Mara's like, I get to showcase how smart. I guess they do end up on air, but they put those PTZs in those rooms. It's like a Big Brother operation. Yeah. They completely forget that I think some people forget that they're even being recorded, which is obviously what every reality show is hoping for. That it's kind of out, and we're hands off, we're out of here, just like moving cameras, zooming in. We got a microphone in the cup right there. Mm-hmm. We got a microphone on the desk right over there. We are in a good spot. I think they hit a home run with this one. But to your point about things hanging over their head forever, Malik Neighbors' decision, where he's like, I need to get the ball early. If Daniel Jones doesn't get him the ball early, and then like second quarter, third quarter, he's throwing some shit, you're going to be like, they knew this exactly what they were getting whenever they signed up for this entire thing. So there is a lot of shit that like people that are on microphones that follow the NFL are going to watch and listen to what's being said, because everybody's a super genius in those meetings. And then whenever shit goes the opposite way, get thrown in their face. But also, maybe it goes the other way.
There's a chance.
Maybe they look like super geniuses in this entire thing, able to manage certain situations, and they're being able to display it. It all depends on how it works out. I'm pulling for him. Daboll's running a 9.440, though. Daboll's running a 9.440, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I think he's spending his summertime running 40-yard dashes and training to be faster at the combine. That's what I think he's doing with his summer vacation. You're getting bit by spiders, and Brian Daboll is training to be in shape for the 40.
I'll tell you what, and if they capture him training for the 40 and they lose some games, this guy's trying to run under a 7.040 instead of trying to win a football game with a $40 million quarterback. It's a wild thing. I appreciate NFL films taking hacks. They tried to try and reinvent. This is seemingly a good one. Everybody, gets a little taste of football during the offseason. Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Schefty, for a while now, we've been talking about contract extensions for both Tua and Jordan Love, and both teams have said, hey, we want to get it done before the start of the season. Yeah. Is there any kind of update or timetable for when that's going to get done, or is it still just kind of a waiting game for both those guys?
I think you'll see a push with these teams going into camp right before the start of drills or right at the beginning of drills. I think that there'll be a final push to see if the two sides can figure out a way to bridge their differences to get a deal done. And if it doesn't get done within the first week or so of camp, obviously you could talk during the summer, could always happen at that point, but the next real artificial deadline would be right before the start of the season, when there's always some extensions that are done right before the regular season begins. I think that you're looking at this possibly getting done essentially at some point once camp opens. And if they can get it done then, good for them. They've been working, they've been talking, and we'll see if they can get it done.
Oh, you're talking about their training camp or all training camps? Because you're talking Thursday, these deals are done. Yeah, that's great news. Right? Hey, happy football.
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, they're reporting Thursday, but they're on the field Friday, Saturday, by the time veterans go out there. So it gives them another week to see if they could figure out a way to get it done. It's not like, okay, we're reporting, you got to get it done that moment. That's sort of like you're on the clock then. You get another 24, 48 hours.
Any expected holdouts? Or hold in? Is that the new thing?
Well, that to me is a really interesting situation, because it used to be that the language in the CBA was prohibitive. But now, last summer, you saw a guy like Zach Martin, who the fines are supposed to be mandatory. He didn't show up for a while. And Nick Bosa stayed away for a while. And so there are guys out there that I believe, if they don't already have decisions, have a decision to make here in the next week or so. CD Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, some of these guys that want new contracts. Again, do they show up? Do they not show up? Do they show up and then hold in? Because if you're not showing up, you're getting fined. So it all becomes one big question about what you can and can't get done. So I think there's absolutely the chance that some of these guys could not show, and that's something they're going to have to decide here in the next week.
I think Zach Martin took those fines, though, and just said, yeah, we're going to add that to the new deal that we're negotiating, right? And that just
again, let's just use it. Let's say they reach a deal for $30 million, and they say, oh, I know the fines are mandatory. They can't be revoked. Let's make the deal $30,600,000. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, bam, done.
All right, yeah, we'll cut a rookie.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, we understand. We got to do that. That's how it goes. And, yeah, that's why I never understood why, and this is not me just like grandstanding, but whenever people are like, you can't hold out anymore, it's like, well, why not? Well, they punish you financially too much. Well, aren't you in the middle of a financial, that's why you're holding out. So isn't that don't those kind of go hand in hand? I guess if a deal didn't get done with Zach Martin, then it would be the massive, this guy just missed a whole year and he's losing out on all the money. It just, people,
by the way,
go ahead.
With the money that some of these guys are going to get, you think it matters that they're going to accrue a couple $100,000 in fines when the guaranteed money is going to be what it is for a guy like Brandon Ayuk or CD Lamb? Like, do you think that really matters in the grand scheme of things? And to your point, at the very last thing, you have the team throwing some extra money to cover the fines.
Yeah, and they'll say that's not what we did. This is the rate we got to, but it's like, you certainly did. And the other NFL owners are going to be pissed at the one per club meeting because you're allowing these people to, now you're setting precedent that this is allowed to take place. And it's like, they'll figure it out sometime, but that drama is always worth it. Because how's the locker room react to it? Well, everybody wants you to get your own money, but also, like, there's been a lot of drama with this Ayuk shit. Like, a lot of drama. And there's 31 teams that would be like, we'll take Ayuk. Yeah. We will take Ayuk. We'll roll the dice on that. He knows that. The Niners know that, I guess. It's just a weird sitch. I do really ponder how that's going to get figured out, Schefter. And we know you know, because you're plugged over there. You are plugged at the Niners. We know that.
Well, here's what I would say there. They have wanted him back. They've intended to bring him back. But the wide receiver market has shifted, which makes it tough. So it's harder to do a deal now than it was a couple of months ago. And Brandon Ayuk thinks that he deserves what all these top receivers are getting, and the Niners have a certain price point figured out. And the other thing to keep in mind here, I think he's playing this year for $17 million, and then after this year, if he were to be tagged, the number's like $22 million. And my math might be a little off, but it's not terribly off. So 17 this year roughly, 22 next year. That's 2 years, $39 million. So now when you start to sit down and figure out the guaranteed money,
stinks.
Yeah, again, the franchise tag here is a weapon for the 49ers, which is not what the franchise tag was intended to be. But again, that's the 49ers' advantage. Now they can tag them the next
that's not how the franchise tag was marketed whenever it was created. It was always supposed to be the weapon, Schefty. We know that. We know that.
No, Pat.
We know that, Schefty. We know that.
Pat, let me tell you this. I was in Denver when the franchise tag was created, and the Broncos owner, Pat Bowlen, was one of the driving forces behind it, and he helped create it to make sure that guys like John Elway would not be allowed to leave Denver. Faces of franchises, quarterbacks, vital people.
Not a weapon of the franchise.
That's the point.
No, Schefty, what are you talking?
Well,
come on, Adam.
Hasn't came out of your mouth. Shit,
but
I'm
my
bullshit
point
right
is, it's branched out to other guys that the franchise tag was not supposed to be intended for.
Oh, you're talking like punters. For instance, you're talking like punters.
Like hunters, exactly.
Yeah, I signed that thing so fast. I'm becoming a millionaire if I sign this thing?
Done.
Deal.
Where's the pen?
And I'm going to Canada. Shout out Niagara Falls. Nick Maraldo, happy birthday. AJ Maraldo, he had turned 19. We damn near spent that entire franchise tag in 2 nights up there in Niagara Falls.
Hell of a time.
It was the first time I'd ever been a millionaire. Didn't even get the money yet. But I signed it, knew it was coming at some point. Let's go ahead and drain this account. Boston Pizza certainly gave us about 700 ounces of beer. It was a good time. Anyways, let's move along. And you knew it was a weapon the entire time, Schefty. As you were stating here, like I'm kind of backpedaling here, but nonetheless, we appreciate your input. Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Schefty, another wide receiver that didn't get a deal done that was assumed he wasn't going to get a deal done is T. Higgins. What was that kind of negotiation like, and is there any chance he gets moved, or is he just going to play out the tag and then just sign somewhere else next year for $35 million?
Well, there wasn't negotiating on a new deal there for T. Higgins, and basically there wasn't hope that a deal was going to get done. He was the only player of 8 to be franchise tagged during this offseason period not to get a long-term deal. And they're going to be in a position where they really can't afford to tag him again next year. The franchise tag would be too much. And it's going to be very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult for the team to re-sign him, particularly when a guy like that can hit the market, when free agent wide receivers are getting what they're getting. If T. Higgins becomes the free agent that he's expected to in March, what is his number going to be? It's going to be bigger than anything Cincinnati can pay. So in all probability, it's like the Jesse Bates situation playing out again. The Bengals tagged Jesse Bates. They knew they wouldn't be able to keep him after that year, but they wanted to compete that season with him. And I think the same thing is true for T. Higgins. Tag him, can't get a deal worked out, didn't try much to get a deal worked out, recognition and acceptance of the fact that he'll become a free agent after this year. And in all probability, he'll leave Cincinnati after this season, but one final run back with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, as they try to do what they want to get done here in Cincinnati.
I think he understands that. We saw a documentary. I think his mom came out and said that she was like, I think everybody just kind of understands. And isn't it crazy that that's Bengals football?
Yeah, bingo.
Like, that's literally the difference. Is like, yeah, this is how the Cincinnati Bengals operate. This is the situation they're currently in right now with obviously the plethora of weapons that they have. They started selling advertisement on their stadium, last team to do so.
Right.
They built an indoor facility. They started doing business to try to afford all these things. But you're not going to be able to keep everybody. And T. Higgins hitting the market next year, I want to let him know, Indianapolis is just 2 hours away, baby.
Whoa.
That's right.
Indianapolis is 2 hours away, T.
Wow.
Come join Anthony Richardson. Get it right. We'll start house shopping for you here in Indy for next season. But go have a good one with Joey B. Mm-hmm. Do one little swan song over there in Cincinnati and do your thing. Don't do too good because we don't need you to be too expensive. But when you get to Indy, stay healthy, get faster, learn all the intel. Don't do too good, once again.
Drop a couple balls maybe here and there.
Yeah.
Don't need it. You're up by like 15. You can drop some.
Yeah, and don't get caught up with any, what's his face? The guy that was missing shots because he was in it with the bookie there.
Oh, Jonte Porter.
Yeah, don't do any of that. We're just saying keep your price at something that the Colts can afford.
Yeah.
And we're not the only team thinking that already.
Oh, no, yeah. He's already coming to New England.
No, Drake May looks good in that Hard Knocks.
He doesn't look good, my friend. He looks fantastic. Fantastic. He's the future.
I mean, Clyde told us.
6 to midnight. Connor went.
Still
Sent that clip in there. Like, did you see Drake May? Did you see Drake May in Hard Knocks? Anything we missed over the last 2 weeks that we didn't ask you about here, Schefty?
The Vikings situation, their offseason has been very challenging, very difficult. You have Jordan Addison, obviously, being arrested in L.A., suspicion of DUI. Their offensive
He was asleep, right? They said he was asleep in his Rolls Royce in
behind the wheel.
In LAX or in a high. Where was it? He was at the airport still?
Yeah, Field says white Rolls Royce there. I've read Lamborghini. I don't know which is which. Again, it was a high-priced, fancy car. He was asleep at the wheel. And this is a guy who last year, Jordan Addison, was cited right before training camp for driving 140 miles an hour and had to settle that issue.
Jeez.
And then, of course, we know the tragic circumstances that the Vikings already have gone through a week ago, losing tragically their rookie cornerback, Kyrie Jackson. So again, this is why I think at this point, teams are ready to get back. They just want to get them back into a structured environment. Yeah. And the whole situation with Minnesota that they've been through, challenging, tragic, sad, unfortunate. Everything about it is not great. And unfortunate that Jordan Addison went through that situation that he did this week, especially after everything that organization went through the week before.
Yeah, and I'm not immune to it. A lot of bad decisions made, throughout a lot of learning through your life. Everybody's got to tighten up, though. I think a lot of people, myself included, you forget how lucky you are to be in the position that you are. And then whenever something happens, you can be, perspective can be put back into place. Like, hey, this can all end very quickly for you. You are not the first person that the NFL needed, and you won't be the last person that the NFL has needed. It's like, that's why getting back in the building will hopefully get guys back straight, and kind of locked in. But we need to stop wasting opportunities just everywhere. And nonetheless, Schefty, hey, appreciate you, buddy. You're the man.
Hope you're okay from the spider bite. Welcome back, everybody. We got a big season ahead. Going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to it, and welcome back to everybody.
Hey, you too. Way to work.
Let's go.
He did some work.
Schefty.
He did some work
Always
today.
work.
It was always work. Yeah.
Always work.
Every text I send is potentially a work text.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every time he looks at his phone.
You never know who's going to give you the information.
Yeah.
I just texted with my DoorDash driver. He actually delivered some food to the Jets facility.
Whoa.
And like everything you do could be, we appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Schefter.
Yeah.